So my name goes all the way back to the Canaanites some 3,000 to 4,000 years ago.
Did you also do my name?
No, I did not.
Well, my name's biblical. Don't be hating.
Welcome to Nice Ashes. Join hosts Mike and Nate for cigars and culture. Let's go beyond the smoke.
What are we smoking today, Mike?
Finally, we are smoking the Tatiana Cherry.
I've been waiting so long.
It's one of the last ones.
I know. I think I only have one or two left. So it's an exciting day.
Something like that. I think we might have 3 left. I haven't checked, but
okay.
Yeah, interesting.
We're getting down there.
The cap does not taste like cherry, nor does it particularly smell like cherry.
No, it smells like potpourri, maybe. Somebody trying to approximate cherry in some sort of thing. I have a little electrical project going on, Mike.
Do you?
I do. And we're recording this, and it is, wow, I am spacing. Today it is May 22nd, but this episode will not air until June 17th. So we're a little ahead of schedule, which is awesome because I like being out of schedule, especially coming into the summer when we're taking vacations and doing fun things. But I am having, and at the point this airs and other people potentially can hear it, it will be well known that I'm aware of the surprise that is going to befall me on my birthday. On my birthday weekend, it's a whole weekend of shitty movies and hopefully beer. And that's probably going to be about it. Some food. I don't know. We might even leave the house, get a wild hair in us. I think Mike will be there. I think Mike was there, right?
I believe future now. Mike will know that he was there in the past.
So part of this is accumulating, because I want it to be, because I was born in the mid-'80s, and I'm the second youngest person there. So I want it to be not a modern flipping through Netflix or Tubi or Freevee or what have you and finding these shitty movies to watch. No. I am finding the shitty movies on Blu-ray. I'm getting them from eBay and they're coming to me at my house. And we're going to be able to have a stack of shitty movie Blu-rays for blockbuster-esque tactile browsing pleasure. Some of these are unfortunately only ever released overseas, which means they're not Region A Blu-rays, but Region B Blu-rays for Europe, and in some cases Region C Blu-rays for, I think, Asia and whatever. So, United States Blu-ray players will not play anything but Region A. Some of them will play Region B, but only if the Region B is really a Region A and B. It's a whole big thing. The point is, I found a YouTube channel from this crazy Indian guy, as one often does when you're looking for crazy stuff to bypass things in the United States. And he said, all you have to do is order this little chip, this little board, and you solder it into your Blu-ray player, specifically for my make and model that I have. And bada bing, bada boom. It's a region-free Blu-ray and region-free DVD player. So if it arrives in time for the birthday bash, great. I will have it soldered up. It's an easy, non-complicated thing. And if not, no big deal, because there's a bunch of other shitty movie Blu-rays to watch.
Nice. Now I'm really excited.
Yes, the collection I showed you a month ago or whatever has grown a lot. I've made, Mike helped me redo my board game shelves. And so I had 2x4 calyxes. And so I took one of those and replaced the 2x2 calyx I had under my TV. So now I have a 2x4 calyx. I have one tote dedicated to sci-fi and shitty movies.
Nice.
And I've got one dedicated to children movies. And then one dedicated to my GameCube and GameCube games. And then the rest are just kind of movies. One is, I tried to put all the DVDs in one and then just the rest of the Blu-rays and a couple others. So I'm slowly getting organized here, Mike.
Hell yeah, dude. One step at a time.
Yes. But we're lit. I'm not really getting cherry from this, Mike. I'm getting sugar, saccharin, whatever.
I am several puffs in. There is a fruity tone to the sweetness, but it is majority sweetness. It is kind of the chemical taste of fruit that we are accustomed to in the modern world.
Yeah.
Not particularly enjoyable, but...
I'm not going to diss it right now. It's mostly just sweet, and that's fine. But we kind of know what to expect with these Tatianas,
Well, some of them have been better than the others.
I think this one's better than the chocolate for sure.
If my memory serves, it's better than a lot of them because we've had some stinkers.
Yeah, we have. they're largely what kind of flavor do you enjoy most that you could also find in like a jelly bean or something, or like an icy or like a slushy or something? Like what kind of flavor, artificial flavor, are you most happy with? And then just pick the Tatiana that matches that and you'll be fine.
Pretty close. Other than the groovy blue, because that still sticks out because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think it was better than we gave it credit for in hindsight, but we'll see.
What are we talking about, Mike?
So we are going to discuss something that everybody knows about. It's all public record, but we don't really learn about it.
Is
it Canaanite? Sex? Yeah, sex. Oh. The Canaanite religious system is kind of foundational to the modern major religions, the three modern major religions that we are told in the United States are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And these do not include any Eastern religions like Hinduism or Buddhism. These are the big Western religions. And they are directly descended to the old Canaanite religion. And the Canaanite religion has a lot of the same framework as the old mythological systems that dominated Europe for thousands of years, which we'll get into as we go along. So having an understanding of how the Canaanite religious system actually worked probably be good. The resources for this are archaeological sites, which we can discuss their locations at a later time, but unfortunately we are losing a lot of them to war in the Middle East. So the origins of our religious history are actively being destroyed by war as you listen. So we are going to have a cap by how much we can learn due to that destruction. Also, some texts that have been passed along throughout history that we don't really get coverage of, and the Bible, because the Old Testament of the Bible is largely a history of the Judean and Israelite peoples who, as we will cover, are direct descendants of the Canaanites.
Sure.
So,
I mean, I've read a lot of the Bible. Genesis kind of makes me go to sleep, but it's a lot of, so-and-so begot so-and-so and that sort of thing.
It's very dry. Very dry for the modern reader.
I mean, these people don't do anything. They just begat people. And,
Yeah, they don't mention any of the daughters, even though we're supposed to believe that they're there, right? Because women don't matter, apparently.
Not then.
Yeah, not to the people that wrote the Bible, at least.
Yes.
So, the Canaanite religion was developed in the Bronze and Iron Age. Very early written history. We know a lot about it through archaeology, some mythological comparative literature, inscriptions, and criticisms in the Bible. So some of what we know is through basically the writers of the ancient Bible talking shit about their neighbors. And very interesting, right? The early Israelites were culturally Canaanites. They were not a separate people. They were part of the Canaanite empire, if you will, or regional zone. Yahweh initially existed as the specific localized God of the Israelites existing in the Canaanite mythological structure. The old mythological structures, some people call it the ancient religion, a lot of these individual national groups had their own god that they worshipped as a part of a larger pantheon. The Roman pantheon is a great example that people know more about. It's more modern and less political. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I have a couple questions, Mike. When they were writing these things down, because these are some of the earliest written records, were they chiseling in stone? Were they using feather pens? Did they have papyrus? Like, what are they doing?
Papyrus. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls, which was animal skin.
Yep. I actually saw those,
are
Mike.
Inscriptions. So we still have had a lot of monuments that the Canaanites built, and we're going to discuss the region they're in and why they're being destroyed at some point, I'm sure. But they're historical records being destroyed on purpose.
Now, Mike, did any of your research come to, because we talk about the Bible and it seems to be one of the most prevalent religious texts, even though there's other religious texts that are as prevalent or more prevalent to other religions, of course, but there are a lot of books written around the same time or that could have been included in the Bible, but there's a committee or has always been a committee to decide what is allowed to be in the Bible. So like the Book of Lilith, for example. There's some other kind of, I think, lesser known Gospels from the New Testament that aren't included, and some other things around that nature. So I don't know if we're going into any of those or if we're just kind of taking the Bible as the Bible.
We are using the Bible as the main primary source. It is unknown how many books of that nature there are. Some speculate there are hundreds of them in existence that are being kept secret or at least unpublished.
Yeah, I wanted to mention it because we're talking about the Canaanites and what was the other one? I'm sorry, Mike.
Oh, the Israelites, the Canaanites.
Yep, the Israelites.
And the Judahite. The Judahite are potentially a different group. The Israelites were Canaanites, a subsect of Canaanite.
Yep. So I just want to make sure that the listener knows, even if you follow the Bible and that's, your religious text, that there has been throughout the centuries, eons, whatever have you, a concerted effort to, I don't know, maybe potentially edit the Bible, but certainly discussion on which books should be included in the Bible. Whether that's for nefarious reasons or not, but there are a lot of other things that could have been included in the Bible that aren't. So since we're talking about a splitting of religions, we'll say that up front, disclaimer up front.
We are talking about the splitting of religions, and we are talking about texts that were written by the ruling class of that era. Yep. And we know what our ruling class is like, so we can presume some things.
You presume too much.
Right. So, the Canaanite world. Canaan, ancient Canaan, occupied an area known as the Levant. This includes modern Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria. The major cities of that era were Uragat, Tyre, Sidon, Byblos. That'll come up later in the Bible, I'm pretty sure, right? Hazor,
maybe,
and Megiddo. Almost every town mentioned in the Bible is in Canaan, right? Because the Canaanites this is where the Bible takes place, the Old Testament Bible.
Yes.
So there is a source called the Ugaritic tablets. They were discovered in Ugarit. I'm assuming it is a ziggurat in 1928. These have primary documentation of the myths, rituals, genealogies, sacrificial systems, and cosmology of the Canaanites. It is written in a language called Ugaritic, which is a direct relative to Biblical Hebrew. Biblical Hebrew being obviously the language of the ancient Israelites and Judites. The Bible has a large amount of information about the Canaanites. It is largely anti-Canaanite. They viewed themselves as a separate group. It shows a lot of the context for early Israelite polytheism, and it also has direct references to the rituals that were later banned and an example of divine council theology. We have a number of archaeological sites, including temples, statues, standing stones, inscriptions, sacrificial remains, graveyards, of course, sacred groves, funerary sites, etc. Due to the location being in a long-standing war zone in modern times, being Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria, a lot of them are being actively
Was it not
destroyed.
A war zone back then, Mike?
It was a war zone, but you have to remember that a lot of this stuff was buried under the sand. That's why we're discovering it now. So they didn't have the technology to destroy massive stone monuments in the way that we do now. Yeah, you can't just drop a single bomb and destroy a whole complex.
Yeah, that's fair.
In 1500. Also, it was buried in 1500. A lot of these a lot of these sites were actively found under British colonialism. So,
but that's bad, Mike. Colonialism is bad.
Wow, there's negative and positive aspects to everything, right?
Yeah, if the British find it, they can put it in the British Museum and it won't get blown up in the sands of fucking wherever.
Crazily enough, of certain sites that are very well known, the only evidence they ever existed currently is in United States, French, and British museums.
Yep.
Because the local population has, through one method or another, destroyed them.
Yep. Which is crazy because you have kind of, right, the sanctity of the place is a thing, but if the only way we know the place existed was because some evil, heavy air quotes, evil colonizer took it back to a museum and now it's preserved for all time. It's definitely a gray area for sure. We talked about gray areas of history last episode, and we talk about that quite frequently, actually. So,
yeah, I'm not saying it repeats, but it certainly rhymes.
Well, Mike loves to say there's a pattern here. There's a pattern.
Seems to be. So the structure of the pantheon, we're going to go, it's very short. We're just going to give the major gods here.
Sure.
The high creator deity was named El. The consort and mother goddess was Asherah. The storm and war god was Baal. So Baal or Baal, we call it Baal, but it's Baal.
Isn't he popular again now suddenly?
Yeah, I think that everybody's watching Stargate again. So they're like, God,
Sure.
that Baal guy, that was a great actor.
I'm actually watching through Stargate SG-1 for my first time.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I
we
love
could
the
cover that for
movie.
the show. Oh, I love
But
that
I've never
show.
seen the show. So.
Oh, that's one of my favorite shows.
It's my other buddy's favorite show,
it.
too, who's potentially, obviously going to be at the Shindig birthday bash.
I think I know who you're talking about, but I will not say his name for disclosure reasons.
Yeah.
The sea and chaos god was known as Yam or Lotan. Now you have to remember we discussed sea navigation. This is approximately 3,000 years before Columbus's era. So the sea was viewed as a very dangerous and chaotic, unpredictable place, as reported in the Odyssey and the Iliad and all these things. They had the god of death in the underworld called Mat. They had the goddess of fertility and war called Anat or Astarte. And they had a solar mediator named Shapash. The structure of the pantheon was dynastic and hierarchical, mimicking modern or ancient monastic or not monastic orders, monarchies. And they had a divine council that mirrored the human monarchy of the time. Now, this divine council, we're going to discuss later, eventually turned into the demons and angels of the Bible. Many of the names are shared and many of their characteristics are the same.
Sure.
So we're going to talk about El. El was the creator god. He was the patriarch of all the gods. He was the source of divine kingship, and he was a judge. His symbols were the throne of the ruler, the mountain ranges, and the bull.
All right.
Yeah. So, the Hebrew Bible preserves the terminology we understand for El in the names El, Elohim, and El Shaddai. Traditional names that are going back to the ancient Canaanites are Israel, Daniel, Gabriel, and Michael. So, my name goes all the way back to the Canaanites some 3,000 to 4,000 years ago.
Did you also do my name?
No, I did not.
Well, my name's biblical. Don't be hating.
I'm not. Well, Nathaniel, I suppose, if there's an EL at the end, right? So
you're darn tootin' there's an EL at the end.
Yeah, you know what? Before this, I really never knew or thought about the fact that my name root does come from like Canaan, right?
Yeah.
El was mentioned multiple times in the Bible. In Genesis, he was mentioned. In Psalm, they spoke of the divine council of El, and there were significant crosshatches with El in Deuteronomy between Elyon, Yahweh, and the sons of God. Asherah, the divine feminine. She was the mother goddess, the goddess of fertility, the source of the sacred groves or sacred trees, and she was considered the consort of El. I don't think we covered it, but El, like synonyms or similar gods would be Odin or Zeus. Some elements of Zeus.
Sure.
But closer to Odin. Asherah. Back on to Asherah. So we have...
Didn't she dance on a table at that one party we went to, Mike?
Yeah, she's a fun lady. Fun lady. There's numerous inscriptions about Asherah. She was a major divinity in the Canaanite religion. She was also mentioned in the Bible as being the consort of Yahweh at one point in time.
Sure.
Some Israelites at
What is the
time,
biblical definition of consort?
Consort would be wife or similar to a wife. They had lots of wives. Their marriage system was different than ours. So basically it means head lady, like the head mistress, you know?
All right.
And
of Yahweh. Yahweh.
Yeah. So in the Bible, she is mentioned as being the consort of Yahweh. As we will find out, Yahweh gained some attributes from El and from Baal, and we're going to find out here.
And to be clear, when we are talking about Yahweh, we're talking about the big capital G-O-D from the Bible, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, because I feel like, a lot of people like to say, like, oh, Yahweh, this and that other thing, but they don't really, like, that's the literal, like, head honcho God from the Bible.
Yahweh is the alleged monotheistic God in the Bible. Yes.
Well, monotheistic in 3 parts, right?
Yeah, in 3 parts. Also, they talk about all the other Canaanite gods in the Bible. So we're not supposed to think about that.
But I didn't even realize, so I know a lot of things about the Bible that most people who claim to follow the Bible don't know, but I never knew that the Bible says she's a consort of Yahweh, which blows my mind because...
Oh, yes. So I knew about this when I was in college, but I took several religion classes on the ancient Near East and some historical lessons. Yeah, the more you know. Anyway, Asherah worship involved sacred poles, sacred groves, stylized
sacred
trees.
Poles?
Sacred poles. Yeah, they would. So in these areas, they're desert. They don't have trees.
Stripper?
Right? I think it was supposed to symbolize a tree because...
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, Yahweh.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for the old guy.
And then she was a symbol of fertility. Some direct biblical representations is in Kings. Josiah removes Asherah's symbology from the temple. So back before Josiah, Asherah worship was going on in Yahweh's temple as his consort. And in Judges, it is said that Israel worships both Baal and Asherah. And we have to remember, Israel and Judah were different entities in the Bible for a significant portion of it. We will get into it. So now we have Baal. He is the god of storms and kingship. His domains are rain, storms, fertility, warfare, and kingship. He also has a symbol of a bull, lightning, and the mountains. Baal has a cycle in the Canaanite mythology similar to Thor, where he battles both Yam and Mot, aka the chaos god and the sea god and the death god. So he battles chaos and death. His main motifs is he's the god of order and he fights the gods of chaos. He's the god of fertility and he fights the gods of drought. And he is the divine patron of the kings. Sure. In the Bible, Yahweh absorbs many of Baal's traits. He picks up the thunder, water, and shattered tree concepts in Psalm. And in Kings, Elijah is depicted as battling other prophets who were prophets of Baal.
I thought the Bible was a peaceful book, Mike.
Sure.
Well, just don't do a comparison of how many people God/Yahweh killed and how many people Satan killed.
Right. Satan's going to come up later.
Surprise you.
I'm going to make a little side note here. It's going to come up later, in a bigger context, but Moloch is misrepresented in modern culture. My understanding is that Moloch was a sacrifice, and the sacrifice was the firstborn child of a population. Maybe many. There's some accounts that they would do the firstborn child of the king. There are some accounts that they would sacrifice the firstborn children of a whole town, but they would sacrifice the firstborn children to Baal in a Moloch ceremony to support them in war, right? So they would perform the Moloch before war so that they would win in battle. It is also documented that they would sacrifice prisoners to Baal to support their next battle, and it has been documented that they might have done false king sacrificing. So the theory is they would find like a peasant and make them a king for a week and then sacrifice them to Baal to make their war efforts more profitable, that sort of thing.
What was that lady god's name? The concubine? I'm sorry, the consort of Yahweh?
Asherah.
Yeah, you're king for a week. You get to like nibble on Asherah's nipples. Also, you're dead now.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, a hell of a way to go.
Absolutely. So the next up is Yam, Lotan, and the Leviathan, which we know from the Bible. Yam is the god of seas and chaos. Lotan is also called the Leviathan, and it is a sea serpent that is defeated by Baal or by, whatever godhead is in the mythology, right? This mythology has a lot of crossovers with the other mythological stories. They're all very similar. So references to the Leviathan are in the Bible. Isaiah describes the twisted serpent of Leviathan. Psalms talks about Yahweh crushing Leviathan, and Job has a detailed description of the Leviathan. We have Mot, the god of death, sterility, and the underworld, also the god of drought and of the rebirth cycle. Shapash, who is the solar mediator, is the sun god, also the mediator between worlds, and the witness of oaths.
I'm making my LinkedIn job title Solar Mediator. That sounds badass. Sounds great.
I like it.
Like someone acts like an asshole and says Mercury's in retrograde. No. I'm the Solar Mediator. Guess what? It's a you thing.
Hell yeah. So in the Canaanite religion, certain mountains were religious, similar to Mount Olympus. Mount Zaphon was associated with Baal, and both Mount Sinai and Mount Zion were associated with Yahweh.
Are these real mountains or are they fictional mountains, Mike?
They are real mountains.
But not Olympus.
Olympus is a real mountain as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's the one in Washington, right? They renamed to President Jackson or something? Jackson Mountain?
This is very similar. Very similar.
Just messing with you. Because it was Denali.
Denali, yes. Well, the peak, right? McKinley. There were secret trees and groves spread throughout Canaan, Israel, and Phoenicia. They were representatives of fertility, life, and divine presence. The Canaanite religion had ritualized sacrifice. They did burnt offerings, grain offerings. They would drink libations, have peace offerings, and also perform various kinds of human sacrifice. I am going to bring up right now that the Moloch was the sacrificing of the firstborn of a city. And if you did not recall, that has a lot of parallels to Exodus and the plagues of Egypt, right? So It is a description in the Bible that is attributed to a different area, but we know that independently, we know that this sacrifice was being made in the region that the Israelites were from. So for more context, right, like they have a description of this in the Bible in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
The temple rituals included incense, altars, animal sacrifices, ritual washings. They had a full priesthood. I know that there's allegations that they ran prostitutes out of there for religious ceremonies, and there's all sorts of stuff of background noise that we don't really need to get into. It's not super important to the context. They had a hierarchy with a council similar to the Greek pantheos. These councils were mentioned in the Bible. Psalms talks about Yahweh being a god amongst the gods. Genesis mentions the sons of God walking the earth. And Job mentions the heavenly court. And the people in the heavenly court happen to coincide with the names of the Canaanite gods.
Sure. Well, and I know we're not doing like a deep dive on the Bible necessarily, because we're talking about the Canaanites and others. But I know that the story of Moses, a baby being floated down the river and saved by the king, right, also happens in some South American religions.
I think it also happened in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is
probably
Canaanite.
So. Yeah.
Yeah, there's parallels to some of these stories to the point where it does lead some credence to the idea that there was a worldwide culture that existed but prehistoric to our own. For sure, there's a lot of parallels, including the human sacrifice angle.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, you think about like Pangea, right, where before the continent split and stuff. And I don't know the time frame of that. And I don't know the time frame of, Homo sapiens and all that stuff. But
they're not supposed to coincide, but there's still archaeological evidence that supports the idea that these cultures had contact somehow.
Yep. The other thing, too, is like the story of the Great Flood occurs in a lot of different religious texts, which some people have said, or some historians or scholars have said, that it just kind of goes to show how devastating floods could be in that era. Right.
Oh, I'm a proponent of that idea as well.
Sure.
There are flood stories from almost every culture. And we have to remember that in ancient times and pre-modern era, cities were built on rivers because rivers were fast-moving highways because you could put a boat on the shit and transport goods way faster.
Yeah, and they were fertile. Water, fresh water. You could drink it. It was life-giving, life-sustaining. You could water crops. You could all that stuff. So
the flood cycle meant that you always had fertilizer for your crops. So obviously you want your fields to be in the flood zone and your houses aren't going to be too far away. So and after a major flood, you're kind of fucked for the year, like the ground's too saturated to grow. So yeah, there's a lot of parallels and multiple reasons that there are coinciding information. So the Canaanite religion had an afterlife, and it was remarkably similar to a place called Sheol. The early Hebrew concept of the afterlife coincides with the Canaanite existence, where the underworld or Sheol was a shadowy existence of moral neutrality, and all the dead, whether they were good or bad, went there. Many of the Mesopotamian religions shared the view that the afterlife would be similar to Sheol. The notion of heaven didn't come up until later. It was a Persian idea established more by Zoroaster than anyone.
Sure. I know I talked to Simha about this a bit, and they don't necessarily believe in like a hell, except for like Hitler. Which sounds like a joke, right? Like it sounds like a joke, but people like Hitler.
Yeah, evil. True evil.
Yeah, true evil.
Yes. And, we could get into it with Simha, but the Judites and the Israelites were two separate people, and they are both now considered modern, Jews. Yeah. But there's a distinct possibility that there's still two distinct groups of people within the realm of Judaism, right? Like, things like that just don't go away.
With the Zionism and everything,
There's clearly differing opinions about a lot of things amongst the different orders of Judaism, and they are radically different.
Yeah. Well, even look at if any of you are religious, or grew up religious, look at your own religion. I remember the Lutheran Synod fights when same-sex marriage was happening, and they were worried about could a homosexual person be a pastor in a Lutheran church. And there were synods some synods supported it and some didn't. And then you had all of these little like podunk town Lutheran churches like scrambling to find the synod that best represented their town, which is fine. But it's important to understand, at least in the modern context, like someone being Jewish or somebody being Lutheran or someone being Catholic doesn't mean you're 100%. Like, it's not one big blanket statement. There's varying degrees within that.
I think you're splitting hairs even much between those. It's like saying Christian. Well, the Mormons claim to be Christian, but they're not Christian according to any of the other Christian denominations, right?
Yeah. That's fair.
The Catholics came to be Christian, but the Catholics have a lot of saint worship and Mary worship and paganism in there that don't exist in the Bible, right? Yeah. I grew up Catholic, so I know significantly more about Catholicism than other things. And the Pope gets to just make up rules as they go along. So, like, you know what I mean? It has nothing to do with what Jesus said. And then you have these other crazier denominations like Seven Mountains Movement and Dominionism and Christian Zionism. And the Christian Zionists don't even believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Well, how are they Christians if they don't believe Jesus is the Messiah? You know what I mean? Like,
it's in the name. It's fucking in the name.
It's in the name, right? Like, there's so much conflict and difference that saying, all Christians it's like nonsense. It means nothing. It doesn't even describe what they believe about Jesus. So it's not very good information. So back to the Canaanites. For those who don't know who Gilgamesh is, it was a story, one of the first novels, epic tales, if you will, the first written hero's journey, and it describes mortality, the underworld. It has flood traditions. It's got the quest for immortality. It has the river story. A lot of the motifs and themes that we have now are embedded in the story of Gilgamesh, similar to Beowulf and the themes of Beowulf. It really has permeated our culture without people really knowing a lot about it. For those who haven't read the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's pretty short. Probably go out there and find it for free at one of the libraries, Pegasus Library, the Library of Congress or something.
Yeah.
Good stuff to know. The Canaanites participated in ancestor veneration. They had family crypts, tombs. They definitely practiced necromancy. And this has been described in multiple points in the Bible. One of the best examples is in Samuel, where Saul consults with one of these wizards in Endor.
Sure.
So it's mentioned. It's mentioned. The early stages of Yahweh worship were in the context of the polytheistic worldview of the Canaanites. The Israelites and the Judites eventually came to prioritize Yahweh amongst the gods, which is called henotheism, which was a very common practice of that era. Your local god would be your main god, and then he would be, part of this pantheon, but he was your local god because he protected you in this cosmic battle amongst the gods. So you would sacrifice to your local god to try to protect you from the other bad gods who happened to be the gods of your neighbors who were also warlike.
Yep.
And this is alluded to in Exodus, where they say, "Who is like you among the gods?" Eventually, the Bible or the early Israelites, it wasn't even the early Israelites, it was the Judites. The Judites required monotheistic worship of Yahweh. This is exampled in the first commandment, which you shall have no other gods before me.
Yeah,
which
that was the one I was thinking of, where it's like, why would you say you should have no other gods before me? Well, and the other one I think of is, I am a jealous God.
Yeah, and you shall not create false gods. So you're not supposed to create an image of Yahweh, which Asherah had statuary, right? And Baal had statuary, and you're not supposed to have statuary of Yahweh.
But, it's one of those things where the phrasing matters, and I am a jealous God implies there's more than one God. If you were just, God, and you're the only one, and you're jealous, you would just say, I'm jealous.
Right. And not that the Bible contradicts itself, but in Isaiah, they say, I am the Lord, and there is no other. Even though they have acknowledged and talk about the other gods. They talk about the moon goddess, and there's all these references to the other gods in the Canaanite religion, right? So we're discussing some of them. Go and look it up for yourself.
Yeah.
It's there. So we're going to move on to Israel and Judah. Israel and Judah were not originally the same peoples. Archaeology suggests that the Israelites emerged from highland Canaanite populations. They were not dominated or moved into that area. They are indigenous to that area. They share pottery, architecture, and language with the Canaanites. And that's why we can read ancient Canaanite, because we have access to ancient Hebrew. The kingdom of Israel, or Judea, or whatever you want, split after the time of Solomon, which we all know Solomon, right? The northern kingdom was called Israel. The southern kingdom was called Judah. The capital of Israel was Samaria, and the capital of Judah was Jerusalem. This is all documented in the Bible. This is not new information. The north and the south, north being Israel, had significant religious differences, which are discussed in the Bible, which is one of the reasons why the temple was destroyed, right? That's the end of the prophecy, right? They destroyed the temple because God punished them, because the Israelis were worshiping Yahweh, Baal, Asherah, and other localized deities. They had major cities in Bethel, similar to Bethlehem, and Dan.
Yep.
The south, aka Judah, was centered out of Jerusalem. Their priesthood promoted a centralized temple worshiping system, a suppression of all other religious cults, and exclusive worship of Yahweh. These struggles were depicted in the Bible multiple times. In Kings, they described the golden calves located at Dan and Bethel. In Hosea, the northern Israelis were condemned for Baal worship. And in Kings, the fall of Israel was interpreted as punishment for their polytheism.
Sure.
The Judites eventually committed reforms under Hezekiah. In 2 Kings, Hezekiah destroys the ancient sacred poles, the bronze serpents, the high places, and other places of worship of the Canaanites, or the Israelites, right? In context, right? The Judites took over, went north into Israel, and started destroying the religious worship sites in the Bible of the Canaanites, aka the Israelites, who were Canaanites. Josiah, as shown in Kings, suppresses Asherah worship, suppresses Topheth worship, suppresses the solar gods worship, suppresses child sacrifices, and destroys rural shrines. Right? So the war between the Israelis who worshipped, or the Israelites, we don't want to call them Israelis. Israelis are a modern thing. We don't want to conflate that. I do not intend that. The ancient Israelites were conquered by the Judites, because the Israelites were practicing polytheism, as they always had, and the Judites were practicing monotheism, which was the new kid on the block. In 586 BC, Jerusalem was destroyed, the temple was destroyed, and the priesthood was displaced. This was viewed as punishment from Yahweh for the Israelites worshiping Baal and El and the other Canaanite gods. This resulted in a strong monotheistic vein in Judaism. It created a codified scripture. It exposed the Jewish population to Persian society and Zoroastrianism specifically. Satan, who was originally depicted as the adversary or the solicitor of God, became a figure of evil. The development of angelology developed. And this was a perversion of the Canaanite pantheons. So the angels of old can all be tied in to the Canaanite pantheon, allegedly. And this is where apocalyptic theology started to develop, because Zoroastrianism was one of the early, if not the earliest form of apocalyptic religion. Now we get to the juicy part. Human sacrifice in the ancient Levant. There's evidence in biblical texts. There's evidence in archaeological sites, and there are parallels to other Near Eastern areas that we know of. Moloch was a fire rite of child sacrifice. They offered the firstborn children to Baal for victory in war. As we discussed, there were also other human forms of human sacrifice, including burning of false kings and the mass slaughter of prisoners. There are references to this practice in the Bible. In Leviticus, they prohibit offering children in the Moloch sacrifice. In Jeremiah, they describe children being burned alive in honor of Topeth. And in Kings, Josiah fights against this child sacrificing to Topeth. Child sacrifices were evident in the Phoenician Empire. And the Phoenicians are also Canaanites, right? Ancient Phoenicia is in that same area of Syria and Jordan. They would have been other Semitic peoples of Canaanite origin, similar to the Judites and Israelites, right? At Topheth, which is where... This is where Josiah was, right? And this is where Jeremiah was Topheth. They have found cremated infant remains, sacrificial inscriptions, animal offerings, and they were known to, of course, sacrifice prisoners there. In Judges, Jephthah vowed a sacrifice, right? And that sacrifice is strongly implied to be his daughter. Strongly implied. You have to remember, we got these texts through many, many versions of priesthoods. So even in the watered down version we have today, it is strongly implied that he sacrificed his daughter.
Sure.
In Kings, the king of Moab sacrifices the firstborn on the city wall.
Awfully
of
public.
Course, huh?
Awfully public.
Yeah. Awfully public, awfully public. We all know the story of Abraham and Isaiah. This is in Genesis, right? Early story. God demands a child sacrifice. Abraham willingly is going to commit the child sacrifice, firstborn, right? That's important. And of course, they find a ram and they substitute it. And this is one of the turning points in early Judaism from human sacrifice to animal sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And again, these are references. I'm reading you references from the Bible. So look it up. It's not a secret. It's just not taught to people when they're trying to indoctrinate you into whatever your local religion is. Literally in the Bible. So other evidences of banned Canaanite practices. In Deuteronomy, they prohibit the Asherah shrine beside the altar to Yahweh. They mention high places.
She's a consort, though.
Yeah, right? That's the truth. She was Yahweh's consort, and then the Judeans denied that, and they went in and cleansed up the polytheism, right? That's like one of the big struggles of the Bible. They mention many of the high places, such as Bahamut, local hilltop shrines, local altars, and mention rural worship. These places are repeatedly mentioned and condemned in Kings.
But I'm a lot like Garth. I only have friends in low places. So why are they only mentioning the high places?
Right? Exactly. Evidence that the early Israelites were or I don't even know what you want to call them, right? Like, they're not really the same people as we have today's. Like, the ancient Israelites is the proper term, because all this stuff was going on amongst the Israelites, and the Bible was written by the Judeans, right? So, because they were the victors of this war. So, we're getting the winner's version of this. So, we really don't know that much about it, right? Deuteronomy explicitly bans mediums in spirit consultations. So, all these Christian types that get into the White House, similar to Reagan, right? Well, he had spiritualists and mediums and things.
Oh, yeah.
I think all of them did.
Yeah.
The Roosevelts did. All these people. It's very interesting. Yep. I almost thought about doing an episode on like occult worship in the White House.
I don't know. Simha's gotten into Judaic mysticism.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's super interesting. So we should probably do like a mysticism episode.
That would be awesome. I would enjoy that. So a lot of the conflict and dualism of Satan was developed post-fall of the temple. And a lot of it is attributed to Persian religion. There's a lot of crossovers.
Sure.
The second temple, Yahweh was the monotheistic God, and all of the former gods became angels and demons. So in the first temple era, they were polytheistic. In the second temple era, they were monotheistic, and the gods got turned into the angels and demons that we know of today that were largely expanded in the medieval times by the Christian scholars. There's a lot of our pop cultures from like made up Catholic demonology.
Yep. Director's cut stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like Baal became Beelzebub, that sort of thing, or Beelzebub. Yep. So now we're going to move on to modern symbols that have roots in the Canaanite religion, which some of this might surprise you guys. The dragon, or the great serpent, was a symbol of chaos, kingship, and cosmic power to the ancient Canaanites. This continues today through the symbol of the Leviathan, who is, of course, an apocalyptic dragon. It is also depicted in heraldic dragons, St. George's dragon, and the national dragons. Multiple monarchies use the symbol of the dragon for their house, right? And yeah, you could say that it goes all the way back to Canaan. There is allegations. There is allegations.
Yes. Are you telling me there's dragons in the Bible, Mike?
There are dragons in the Bible. Unicorns, too.
Really?
Though that's explainable. So the unicorn, there are unicorns in certain versions of the Bible in English. And the reason why is it was translated into English from Greek. And the Greek word for rhinoceros was also the equivalent word for unicorn, because it means one-horned, four-legged beast. So our modern conception of unicorn is of the horse, but the descriptor is a four-legged, one-horned beast, which is also the descriptor for a rhinoceros. Yeah. So it's like an example of linguistic drift and the unreliability of the Bible, right? Because of translation, right? Yeah. You can see it. You can see it with that one thing. We know, right? And you have to expand. Like, is everything else legit then? Like some of it's going to be, and some of it's going to be a little fluffed up, Yeah,
like and some of it, I mean, the translations is a huge thing. And back when I first read Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, I purchased the accepted best translation of that. But since then, a new translation has come out that is presumably better. And it's really dependent on the translation, because a lot of the words have different meanings based on context, but the context might not inherently be apparent. So it's partly science and partly an art to get to the true meaning of what was written way back then.
There's nuance and speculation, and an open mind, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's kind of my big thing. I don't know. One of my big things, right, is the Bible is the true word of God, and anyone who was translating it was under God's supervision, so therefore it is 100% accurate. But then you're like, well, okay, I mean, you're using the King James, or you're using the New Living Version or whatever, right? So how do you reconcile the two different versions if you're going to tell me anyone translating the Bible has God's blessing and therefore is infallible? But they're different, so...
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Pretty much, and wouldn't it just be easier to say, like, look, we're going off of the one that makes the most sense for us. Other people have interpreted it this way, and that's fine for them. Like, we don't have to be angry about it. I don't know. Seems easier to me, but I'm just a chill guy, I guess.
Yeah, as long as you're not forcing it on me, man. Like, you believe whatever you want.
This aggression
Right.
will not stand.
Like, yeah,
It's
man.
like,
If you're going to talk
your
about seven
opinion,
dominions, you're going to talk about seven dominions, then we're going to have an issue. Or seven mountain theology. I ain't for that. Right? Now you're
I'm
talking
for
about
the
dominating.
unicorn theology.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah. Back to the symbols. The bull, as we discussed, is of course a symbol that lives on today. The bull was associated with El, Baal, fertility, and strength. We still use the bull as a symbol for stock markets, royal iconography, and military insignia, which you have to remember, Baal was the god of war. So there we go. One symbol that a lot of hippies love is the sacred tree, right? The tree of life has its origin in Canaanite mythology. It is a symbol of, I can't remember her name. Asherah. I don't even have to go back. Asherah, right? The goddess, the mother goddess, is a Canaanite deity represented by the tree of life. The Christmas tree has ties through Yule all the way back to the tree of life. That is what the Christmas tree is supposed to represent in the darkness of winter. For those who are not of Scandinavian or northern origin, who do not know their own history, there are still sacred groves around the planet that ties into Asherah worship and, of course, fertility symbols. Mountains played a major role in Canaanite mythology. Known mountains are Sinai and Zion, and also Zaphon.
Yep.
People still build temples on mountains and hills. We create architecture that is reminiscent of mountain symbolism, and people make pilgrimages to mountains to this day. The serpent was a major theme in Canaanite mythology. Its ancient meanings were of healing, immortality, wisdom, and chaos. Now, in the modern world, we have the medical association. We have, of course, dragons, occultism, and famously, Satan took the form of a serpent in the Bible, which is interpreted as a dig against the serpent's association with wisdom and immortality, and possibly underlying meaning of chaos in the Canaanite, pantheon.
Sure.
They used fire as a sacrificial way. Of course, they had altar fires where they would throw babies on and other animals. These continue on in modern day churches with the eternal flames, votive candles, vigils, and ceremony pyres. So think about that the next time you go to church, and the candle that always burns if you're Catholic.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah. A lot of the symbolism of royalty was developed by the Canaanites. This, of course, goes back to larger Mesopotamian culture in general. But crowns, thrones, dragons, lions, bulls, and the sun were all associated with royalty in the Canaanite religion. Things that are all still associated with royal houses. Again, like if you point it out, they'll say, oh, it's a coincidence. But we do have a single cultural path back to the Canaanites through history, right? We know we do. There's a single cultural path from the modern era back to the Canaanites. And if you listened, I am sure you noticed some parallels from what they believed to what other cultures in the past believed to what we believe.
Yes.
Obviously, it's not the same, but it is related.
There are patterns, I've heard.
The conclusion of this little lesson, I suppose, or information session, if you will. The religion of ancient Israel emerged from the wider Canaanite religious world and gradually transformed through political centralization, priestly reforms, active suppression of competing cults, theological reinterpretations, and exile and development during various exiles of the Jewish people, or the Judean people, to be more accurate.
Yes.
Archaeology and known textual criticism reveals substantial continuity between Canaanite cosmology, Yahwehism, Israelite monarchy, the Second Temple, Judaism, modern Christianity, and symbols that persist with the same meanings 3,000 years later, 4,000 years later, today. Right? 4,000 years later, these symbols that the Canaanites developed, we still use for the same meanings. They are the same meanings. Many concepts central to Abrahamic religion, including angels, Satan, dragons, mountains, sacrifices, the apocalypse, rituals, divine kingship, and heavenly counsel, all have identifiable roots in the Canaanite old religion. I would also like to add, this is not a part of the little research I did, but if you guys look into like more crazy conspiracy theories about Satanism and like the occult, they refer to the old religion a lot. And what they're describing in the old religion is this right here, what we just discussed today, right? This is what they're talking about. Practitioners of the old religion, they're talking about this. And it is documented. It's discussed. I had a college course on it. This sort of ancient Near East religious stuff, right? Like it's in the zeitgeist. It's not hidden information. It's just not pop, right? It's not in the popular culture for obvious reasons.
Yeah, and a lot of the things in the Bible, like we're just talking about things in the Bible, and you can just read that for free. Like your church gives you that in your pew. You can just read that. But nobody does, and nobody knows.
Well, even if you do read it without historical context, it doesn't necessarily mean a lot. And it does take active learning to get the historical context to understand what they meant by, you know, Josiah going and taking the Asherah statuary out of Yahweh's temple.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it takes understanding to even understand what the fuck that means, right? Or they didn't even say Yahweh's temple, they said the temple. But the temple is Yahweh's temple.
Sure.
So we have to understand that before Josiah, they were worshiping Asherah and Yahweh in that temple.
Yeah.
Right? And then we get these bullshit cultural references in like angels and demons about the ancient worship of the divine feminine and blah, blah, blah. Well, there's elements of truth to that, right? Back 4,000 years ago, they had divine feminine statuary in temples to Yahweh. So we know that they wrote about it in the Bible.
Yep.
I mean, Deuteronomy didn't ban it because it wasn't happening, right?
Yep.
So, similar to everything else, you don't need to make something illegal if nobody's doing it.
True.
Just saying.
Saves on legal fees for sure.
Right. You don't need to ban mediums and spiritualism if nobody's doing it, which we're still doing it. Like Ronald Reagan did it. Everybody's supposed to think he's this great guy. Like he was consulting spiritualists and basically demonologists in the White House.
Man, I sent you that meme where it was like Ronald Reagan, and then George W. Bush was country Reagan, and Obama was like black Reagan. It was hilarious.
Yes, it's true. It's all different versions of Reagan. You know, what's your little denomination? And then, we're just not going to talk about the fact we're reading tarot cards and we're sending computers with astrology calculations in them to like subsidiaries of us and all this weird nonsense that the CIA has done in the past. You know, all these mind games that...
I mean, enjoy your tarot cards for sure, but like, I don't know, maybe don't base large life choices off of them. Understand it's a game, man.
I mean, it's a game, but it's also a belief system that does go back 4,000 years, so I'm not going to shit on it.
Yeah, but what about the Ouija board, man?
Well, again, that's got roots in that sort of like nonsense, you know what I mean? Like, do I think that a mass-produced product has a direct link to Satan or something? Probably not, especially when you consider that Satan is considered like an adversary or a lawyer, if you will, and a servant of God, just like not in a positive way from a human perspective.
I don't know. Right? I'm pretty sure I could get a Ouija board to get me a blowjob. Pretty sure.
Right.
We should try that on the show. We should try and summon a demon to suck our dicks.
We should not. I'm not going to play around with that. Just in case. I'm going to
protect
myself.
Have you not done Ouija before?
I have never done an Ouija board. Dude, I was raised Catholic. I don't have any tattoos, and I don't do any demonology shit. Like,
I don't have any tattoos either, but you have not had your knob slobbed till it's been slobbed by a demon.
From what I've heard.
From what I've heard.
Yeah, allegedly.
But
no, I do have some certain cultural hang-ups from my ancestors, right? We've discussed some of them on the show. And I was fortunate enough to know my grandparents who knew their grandparents and their parents who were not of this country. So, you know, like I still have cultural roots to other places. I mean, obviously I have cultural roots in the United States as well, but I understand that the modern culture it doesn't have historical roots. We're trying to live in this like momentary thing where nobody has a memory of the past, which is garbage.
It's garbage.
We should have a memory of the past. The past informs us of what's going on in the present.
They readily dismiss the past because like one thought process doesn't align with like the modern, what's politically correct.
Well, yeah, modern sensibilities.
And you can't discount an entire thing just because one little thing doesn't match up.
Right. And it removes context to the reasons why they held those prejudices. Understanding the context explains why they were assholes in certain ways that were not today.
Yeah,
right?
and you don't
There's
have
reasons.
to agree with them on every single thing, but if you discount them wholly because of one belief they held, you're discounting a large swath of knowledge that could be yours.
Knowledge that people genuinely and broadly believed not long ago, right? It was the prevailing thought. It's not like the people that I know who are older or, who were born in, let's say, 1910, right? Like I've talked to people that were born over 100 years ago in my youth.
Yeah.
Like it's not like they were special. They were just Yakovs that I happen to know. It's not as if their belief system was unique to them. Right, they're a product of the culture that they inherited, the same I am.
Well, yeah, but they had more experience than you, and they lived through more than you. And it's almost like the Duncan, Idaho Gola thing from Dune, right? Where like the memories persist or whatever, right? So you don't have to agree with every single incantation of Duncan, Idaho, but you can't discount all of Duncan, Idaho because one time he did something wrong, right?
Right. And he did multiple times.
Well, yeah.
And never forget that it's easier to control a population with no cultural memory.
Oh, that's true. Not saying that's what's happening, but
I'm not saying that's happening, but like if the Mississippi River flows through your veins and the soil of the forest is what grew your bones, then you might have more interest in preserving the land than someone who comes from pirate people with an 89% rate of dependency on the government.
This is also true.
Not speaking of any specific incidents
this is
in
just
recent
generalized.
It's just generalized statement, right? Like, I'm just saying the true sons of North Dakota, their lungs were developed under prairie air. They're going to have a little bit different experience than a transplant. You know what I mean? They grew there, you flew there. That sort of thing.
I thought you were going to say just trans. I didn't know you're going full transplant.
Oh, I haven't. I mean, talking crap about like the wacky people is always good. And, I don't mean, I don't want to disparage the people who have genuine issues and concerns with their self-identity, right? So,
I'm not trying to downplay anybody. It's just, interesting the pathways people take.
You can't even legally buy a fucking cigarette until you're 21 or go to a tanning booth or buy a beer, a single beer. So there's reasons for that.
Yep.
We just got to transfer the knowledge of why to other areas of life.
Well,
and understand.
And one of the things that I've heard and has stuck with me because you read a lot or you do a lot of research or you try and learn a lot. And something that stuck with me is if you're only reading things that agree with your viewpoint, you're not growing. You're not learning.
No, you're self-propagandizing.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing. You're brainwashing yourself.
And you can read stuff that doesn't agree with you. And you know what? You'll be okay at the end of it. Like, you'll be okay. It's not going to be a problem. You don't have to convert to the opposing view to learn more. It's just, know what the opposing view says or know what something you don't know anything about says, right? It doesn't do any harm. You don't have to change your entire worldview based on one little thing, right?
No, understanding other people's worldviews helps you understand your own better. It helps you be more empathetic, right? Empathy is something that is lacking amongst many people.
Yeah.
And it is definitely, if you claim to be a Christian, not within the boundaries of the teachings of Jesus. Right, is exactly the opposite of the teachings of Jesus.
Yes.
So best be thinking about what the Gospels say. There's only 4 of them with stuff from Jesus, really.
Well,
plus
4 legitimate ones, right?
Yeah, 4 legitimate ones plus some apocryphal ones that you should go out, seek them out, and find out what they say, because they say radically different things about the life of Jesus.
I think even like the Dead Sea Scrolls, man. Like I went and saw those when they came to Minnesota. And it was fantastic. It was amazing. And I'm an atheist, but it was amazing. It was very cool.
It's amazing. And the cross references between the sayings of Jesus, between these banned gospels, Jesus is saying most of the same stuff. It's just other things have changed, right? Like they talk about James, his brother, and his wife, and Mary Magdalene, the prostitute, and all these things that aren't in the official narrative. But then you hear like the other parts, like Jesus is adding more stories that are similar, the same stories, the same sayings. It's like, so clearly they were written by the same group. Like they had the same messages.
Well, sure.
They had the same messages. So... And we know that... Oh, go ahead. Oh,
I was just going to say most biblical scholars agree that the Gospels were not actually written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They were written at least 100 years after all of those people died, right? Or lived. So none of the biblical scholars truly believe they were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John.
Legitimate professorial biblical scholars.
Yes.
Let's be clear. We're not talking about Seven Mountain Theology, Dominionists, or, Schofield Bible types. Like these people just make it up out of whole cloth. Similar to Joseph Smith finding rocks in a basement, right? Or whatever.
Magic hat with tablets or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
one of his best buddies destroyed them, and then suddenly he's like, well, I can get more, but God was kind of mad, and so they're not going to sound exactly the same, but the gist is going to be there. Sure thing, Joseph. Sure thing.
Yeah, they just disappeared because God was angry because you hid it.
Yep.
Do it again. Oh, God's mad.
God mad. Not happy. Well, that's actually, you know what? That's the most believable thing of the whole story. Because God is fucking angry in the Bible. Tell you what. Not a happy fellow.
That is true.
Not a happy fellow.
Not Old Testament God.
Ever
Old
since
Testament
they
God's
tore down the
sour.
statue of his consort,
Right.
Kind of an angry guy.
Yeah, even the story of Jesus has rhymes with the sacrifice of the first son, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a theme.
Oh, yeah.
It's a theme. So, yeah, that's all I got. The Tatiana Cherry, I'm getting near the end. It is starting to turn a little sour. I have about 3/4 of an inch left, so I smoked it all the way down, more or less.
About what I got.
I rated mine at a 2, and the reason, it was fine, perfectly adequate.
Yeah.
And it did not go through a flavor change. It was sour at no point until the very, very end here. Less sour, more no flavor.
Sure.
It did not taste like cherry. It was just medium dark tobacco with a sweet top note and the chemical fruit flavor. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's if that's what you want, it's adequate. There's nothing special about it.
There's absolutely nothing special about it. It did not taste like cherry. It was just sweet. I gave it a 1.75 because I gave the Tatiana Groovy Blue a 2. And I'd rather smoke the Groovy Blue, honestly. Like, the Groovy Blue is an experience. It's maybe the high point of the Tatiana line. And I actually went back, and for those of you paying attention, I dropped my... I think it was the Tatiana... I dropped the Tatiana chocolate from a 2 to a 1.75 because it wasn't as good as the Groovy Blue. And I made this one a 1.75 because this one is fine. And you know what I hardly got any Scooby snacks in this one. I didn't get much tobacco in my mouth on this one, which is fantastic. But I'd rather smoke the Fireball cigar or the Groovy Blue or, I don't know, as far as like sweet flavored, the factory smoked sweets, like I'd rather smoke that than this. But it's not terrible, but it doesn't taste like cherry. Like I never got cherry. I just kind of got sweet and maybe a hint of like that artificial fruit. Like, not really like a fruit punch, like not that strong, but maybe if you drink like the juice from the fruit cup that has like the 1/2 of a cherry in it, maybe that kind of flavor. I don't know.
So I rated the Tatiana Nightcap at a 2.75, and I'm going to increase, because I also rated the Tatiana Blue at a 2, but I'm raising mine to 2.5.
All right.
Because I put the vanilla at a 2. I think that this is on level with the vanilla. Like, it's not really vanilla. It's just a sweet flavor, right? It's fine.
Yeah. You know what? We've talked about the Groovy Blue. I'm going to raise mine to 2.5 too, because I don't know. Like, I know that we had strong opinions about it at the time, but it's such an experience. Like,
it's weird. It's just weird.
All of the Tatianas, if you ever only smoke one, it should be the Groovy Blue, because that is like a fucking trip. Like, it's the blue raspberry flavor forever. Forever.
Yeah, the blues raspberry is very strange with the tobacco. I like the Nightcap too, because it was like incense. It wasn't Nothing like I've ever had. That nightcap was real weird. I remember it was
where is that one? What did I rate that one?
Oh, I'd have to look. I know I did it a 2.75. I did actually like it.
Okay. We rated the Tatiana Waking Dream as a 3.5 and a 3.
Oh, yeah, the nightcap. So you did the nightcap as a 2.5. I did it at a 2.75, and I didn't see the Waking Dream. Yeah, the Waking Dream. Yeah,
I guess
did
that
3.5,
good.
and I did a 3. Yeah,
wow.
The Waking Dream must have been a weird one too.
I guess.
I know a few of them were just very strange.
I don't know. I almost feel like I can't remember the Waking Dream anymore, but I feel like the one that sticks out to me is the Groovy Blue because it was just such a different experience, and it was so strong and persistent throughout the whole smoke that if you find it for cheap, just do it. It's a fun time. Just think back to when you were in high school or middle school or whatever, and just have fun. It's a fun experience. This one was just a sweet cigar, and that's fine. But I don't know how they get off calling it cherry.
It's fruity. It could be strawberry, a berry of some kind.
Yeah, you could just
mixed
call it
berry.
like a Tatiana Berry Punch would be a lot more apt.
Right.
Where'd we land on the religions, Mike? Which one is right? Where are we going when we die? What's happening here?
Oh, well, I don't think we discussed that. That's really for the listener to decide for themselves, right? We're just talking about historical context in a historical context of the background that is there and we have access to but isn't discussed.
Yeah.
Right? You have access to it. You can get understanding of it. There's scholarship about it. It's not secret. It's been known for a long time. Certain groups are actively trying to destroy it, right? Yep. And we can name them. ISIS, right? ISIS is trying to destroy it. Al-Qaeda, they're trying to destroy it. You could argue the modern Israeli state in certain ways is trying to destroy it, right?
Sure.
Which, if you look into the background, those three groups have some ties that are uncomfortable, especially because ISIS is now in control of Syria and destroying the temples that are evidence for our past.
Yep.
So not good. Under U.S., like we're paying for it, our tax dollars are going to pay for the destruction of our own history, which is really, really makes me so happy, if you can't tell.
Yeah. They won't fix the fucking potholes.
Yeah, we don't have money for universal education or potholes or universal health care, but we can pay subsidiaries of the United States to destroy our past, the collective past of the Western world and the cultural understanding of our society.
Yes. Well, like the Christopher Columbus episode that we did before this one, and like this episode, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of information that has come to light through, the internet, but also research and archaeology. And what you are being taught, whether it be Christopher Columbus or potentially your religion, might not be super duper accurate.
At best, it is a manipulation.
Yeah, and I would say that just like with the laws in the United States, it is your obligation as a citizen to know all of them, which is impossible because they've passed so many. It's ridiculous. But again, the onus is on you. And if you want to be a practitioner of a certain religion or faith, then I would also say that the burden is on you to know about it and learn about it and know more about it than you know now, and know more about it than what you're being taught every Sunday or Saturday or Friday, whenever your day is, right?
Wednesday. Yeah. Wednesday school.
Yeah. Otherwise, thanks for listening.
Be safe. Have fun.